Today I'd like to talk about something that is mentioned very little out there, and it's hard actually to get some good, accurate information on, and that is saddle fit. This video will cover Western saddle fit. I've got Rain out here to use because he's kind of more your typical quarter horse build or stocky horse build. Actually, he's got about an extra wide back, so I want to show a couple of saddles on him and what to look for when you're looking at saddle fit. So he's pretty broad in the withers. What I find is some horses you'll even find white marks right here on the wither, and even on top of the wither, or on the shoulders of the shoulder here in the wither and on top of the wither. That's because if a saddle is not fitting correctly and pinching in this area, it actually cuts off the blood supply, not allowing the horse to sweat. So you will see also dry marks right here when you finish riding. And it also creates so much pressure that white hairs will, it cuts off the blood supply, so white hairs will grow up in here. Now, if the pommel is not high enough and there's not enough clearance, it'll rub here on the withers, and that will get you in a lot of trouble. And that will also rub and create white hairs. So those are telltale signs of a horse that's been ridden with an ill-fitting saddle. So what I've found through the years is a number of behavioral problems stem simply from poor saddle fit. And the horse is in pain and doesn't know any other way to tell you but to act up or buck. And so it's very, very important. I think it's the number one most important thing that you can do is make sure that your saddle correctly fits your horse. So I've got a couple of saddles over here. Here's one that has what is referred to as semi-quarter horse bars. Some people call it quarter horse bars. You can look at both of these gullets and see the width all the way down through each of these gullets and see that this one is much narrower than this one. I've got a tape measure here, and I want to show you where some people measure here to here for the gullet width. Right here. I think saddle makers like to do that. But where I find the measurement that's most important to your horse and whether or not it fits correctly in the shoulders and over the withers is you'll see conchos, either silver conchos or sometimes there's a leather part right here, but they all have it right here where the girth keepers are. And you can measure right up underneath from here, right in the center of that concho to the center of the other concho. And this one, get that right, measures about 6.5 inches. That's semi-quarter horse bars. That is not appropriate for your average quarter horse out there or your average horse. Full quarter horse bars, and I mean it has to be full quarter horse bars, is a minimum of 7 inches in the gullet area. And this one down here is a custom-made saddle that fits all the broad horses that I have. Fits him really well, although he can just have full quarter horse bars, which is a full 7-inch gullet, measuring from here to here. And this one measures almost 8 inches. But even though it's a little wider, it clears his shoulders there, his scapula, and allows for freedom of shoulder movement and doesn't pinch him. And it'll also fit a number of other horses, even though it's wider. So you also want to look at pommel height here when you're checking. But I'm going to go ahead and throw it on here. I'm going to show you both of these saddles on Rain and the difference in fit without the saddle pad. All right. So immediately what we're going to look at is this area right here. This area right here. So I'm going to move him over just a little bit. Over here. Okay. So if I set this saddle up right here, you can really tell that it's going to, especially when I cinch it down and put my weight in the saddle, it's going to create pressure here because I can't get my fingers through here flush. I can barely get my fingers through here, and I guarantee if I was sitting in the saddle, I couldn't even squeeze my fingers in that area. So that's going to be too tight. It will create pressure and eventually pain. So we don't want to use this one. Now sometimes a pad makes a difference, the type of pad you use. However, it would be like trying to put an extra pair of socks over shoes and try to for shoes that are too tight. So an extra pad wouldn't lessen the pressure or make the horse more comfortable. It will actually create more pressure and get you in worse trouble. So, as you can see, this gullet here has a lot more room in it. And what my pad will do is raise it up just a little bit, so it'll fit about like that, and have clearance of his shoulders. And next I'm going to talk about saddle placements. Let me get the pad. This pad that I use, and I've used them for years, is called an Impact Gel Pad. I've used just about every pad out there, and this is the first pad that I've used on a consistent basis where I've never had a horse's back get sore at all. Because every saddle tree is different. Every horse's back is different, so no saddle is going to fit absolutely perfectly on the horse's back. So whatever imperfections there are, I find that this pad, you can go to impactgel.com and read about it. I find that this pad makes up for imperfections. Try this on good. So, okay. All right, a couple of things. Now, if you can see, this is nice and flush right through. Rain, I wasn't asking you to look. Stay over there. Nice and flush through here, allowing plenty of shoulder movement. This is another thing I want to talk about. Most people, English and Western, place their saddles too far forward where it rests right on the horse's scapula or shoulder blades. That is also, you can have a saddle that has a wide enough gullet, but it doesn't fit correctly. Because it doesn't fit correctly, it's still creating pain. So it's still going to cause you problems. So what I do is I put my hand up in here, palm up, right where I feel the shoulder blade, and rock this saddle back until I feel like it's at its, where it's most comfortable. And that's where correct saddle placement is. So you really should be able to have plenty of room in here, plenty of shoulder movement. Now the other thing that's very, very important is right here. You have to lift this pad up into the gullet area, the pommel up here. If you don't, what happens is this pad lays down flat on the wither and creates pressure, especially when you go ahead and cinch it up and put your weight in the saddle. It's constant pressure right there on the wither. That can also cause rubbing, white hairs, lots of pain, get you in lots of trouble. The other thing you want to look for is right through here. Is the clearance good? Is the clearance good when you're sitting in the saddle? Is there no chance that that's going to rub on the horse's withers? It's very, very important. So, put this thing up in the gullet area just as high as you can get it, and then cinch your saddle down. A couple of things. Some of these saddles have what's called double rigging, where you kind of loop it through one and then the other. Those are fine. Circle Y, most of their saddles have double rigging. Some of your latigos are leather. Some are nylon or synthetic. If they're nylon, this is very, very important. I've seen this a lot. These holes, they kind of burn through the nylon to create the holes. Rub your hands along these holes and see if there's any sharp edges, because in most of your nylon girths there are. And what you'll want to do is take maybe a soldering iron and smooth those out, because those will rub on your horse's skin, maybe even stick them right here, and get you in some trouble. So I'm trying to keep you safe and out of trouble. Horses' skin anyway is 7 times more sensitive than our own, That's why they can literally feel a fly land on their hair. So you want to be very, very careful. Your girths, check your girths really good, no matter what kind of girth you have, and make sure there's no debris that could rub against the horse's skin and create discomfort. That's very, very important. Brush your horse's girth. Don't forget the girth area. Brush it off really, really good. Get any sand or mud or anything cleared out under there, and make sure it's nice and clean. Horses that don't traditionally spook or are not traditionally spooky will spook when they're in pain somewhere on their body. When I get a call or an email and their horse, someone tells me that their horse who has been so good is now spooking randomly, and it's a good indication to me that there's pain somewhere in the horse's body. It could be anywhere, but the first thing you want to check is saddle fit, because horses really can only focus on one thing at a time. They don't multitask well like we do. So if their focus is just on pain while they're riding out on the trail or in the rain, anywhere, they seem to imagine ghosts, jumping out of nowhere. So that's where the random spooks come from. So that is, make sure when you're cinching your horse up, you cinch it up nice and slow. Don't just pull on it. You're going to create a cinchy horse and a bad attitude right there before you even start your ride. So be nice, be kind and respectful like you'd want them, like we ask them to be of us, and cinch them up slowly and carefully and nicely. What else do I want to say about this? Oh, I think I've covered everything I wanted to cover. Oh, I want to mention a pad that's new that I find very, very helpful. I don't have one yet, but I'm going to get one. Some horses have real strong or large shoulders, and it kind of dips in right here. Or maybe their muscles are atrophied right here because they're out of shape, or maybe an older horse. So like I said, every horse's back is different. So what you want to make sure with your Western saddles is that when you put your hand up under there and feel that it's nice and flush. Sometimes we get what's called bridging. You will see after a ride an area right here or somewhere in here that did not sweat. If you see that, that's a good indication that you've got bridging going on or a gap in your saddle. The reason that's important is because that can also cause pain, even though this fits well. What happens is all your weight is in the saddle, but it's distributed here and here, so it creates pressure points. So this new pad has padding right here that goes behind the shoulder blade, and makes up for what the part that the saddle is not touching, so it takes care of the bridging. It's by Classic Equine, and it's called BioFit, the BioFit pad by Classic Equine, and I think that'll help a lot of you out there. I'm a big, big believer in therapeutic pads, whether you're just trail riding, especially if you're trail riding, because you're out there for hours, and you've got a lot of weight and pressure and movement of your weight and pressure on their bodies. And like I said, every saddle tree doesn't fit every horse's back correctly. So I would recommend that everyone get a therapeutic pad of some sort. Again, I personally like the Impact Gel, but there's some real good pads out there. And I believe that covers it. Thanks for watching.